It's time to work on the ribbons block on our Star-Spangled Beauty ladder quilt. The ribbons block is on page 37. The background fabric has been fused with interfacing on the back, and I have the batting. This piece of fabric is not backed. And from the embellishment kit, I will be using the rest of the lace and the ribbon. Let's get started on the ribbons block. For the ribbons block, the only part that will be done on our embroidery machine is the quilting of the background fabric. I will go to embroidery and my USB. I will open the quilting bundle folder, and I need the stars 11 block by block, and I need the 8 by 10 design. I will hit set, and I need to change my hoop. I have the 8 by 12. I need to change it to the 9.5 by 14. Select OK and embroidery, and I am going to lay out and move and just scoot that all the way down, and I will go to the minus plus needle and we can stitch out the block. So I've placed my batting and my background fabric, but because I am just using the designs that came with the project, I am going to skip the next two steps. The next step is the tack down of the batting, and I'm going to use my down arrow and skip that. Then the next is the placement for the fabric, and I am going to skip that. And now I'm going to do the tack down of the fabric. I took out the basting and trimmed the muslin right next to the batting. This fabric was not quite cut as large as most of our background fabrics, and so this will have just a little bit taken off. This block needs to measure 8.5 by 10.5, so I have my large ruler, and I'm just going to center it so that the batting is equal amounts, or as good as I can get it. And then I'm going to trim this. And you can see how little there was to trim on this. Usually we have a good 1/2 inch or more on our background fabrics. Now this block is just the background fabric with the quilting. This will have all of the ribbons placed on top, and from looking at the sample in the book, you actually can't even see the background. So it's time to place all of our ribbons and get them sewn to this block. Now that the block has been trimmed to size, there are a few things I need to do with this piece of fabric that is not backed. It needs to be snipped in 3 spots. We're going to rip this so that it has kind of a frayed edge. And so what I am going to do is fold it in half. And I am going to just take my scissors and cut about a 1/2 inch or so. And then they want you to measure from this center 1.5 inches over. So I've already marked that. So again, I still have it folded. And so where that mark is, I'm going to cut so that there are three cuts, and then we are just going to rip this down. And then that little tiny piece on the end is just left over. And this is what we want. We want it to be frayed and kind of rustic looking. I'm going to do both the ends first since they're small. and then down the middle. So now I have 2 pieces of ribbon or, you know, fabric that will go on this block. If they're super long pieces, you can just, you know, trim those super long pieces off. We don't want any of those. So if there's something like that, I'll just go ahead and then that kind of frays it. It looks great. Love it. So I'm going to set those, and then I've taken all of my ribbon and I've just quickly pressed it with a warm iron to get all the folds out from it being packaged on those little cardboards. So just to flatten them out. I did that. I didn't need to do it to the lace, but I did it to all of the other ribbons. So now this block, it's just a matter of laying out the ribbon. Of course, they give you an order. You could do it in any order. They tell you down here to, you know, which one to lay down, and they just need to extend. It says 1/8 of an inch from the top of the block, and then we will use a regular sewing machine to base and stitch those down. Now, it does say in the directions that these, I think almost all of them are cut 12 inches, except for these that have the words on it. These are pre-cut, so you don't need to cut them, I don't think. Actually, let me measure. This one says that these will be 11 inches. These are already 11 inches, so we don't need to do anything with that. So it says to cut them 12 inches. Now, I do want to point out something. Let me see if I can find a better picture. On the front cover, you can see that this block, these ribbons hang way past this 8-pointed star, and they are different lengths. You know, the ribbons, it's just supposed to look, you know, kind of natural and just, I love the look, but I don't like that it's covering so much of this 8-point star. And so I am not going to cut mine that long, just because I would rather have them closer. If you look here, you can see the end of this section is right here. It ends right here with this block and the bottom of the blue petals block, and you can see how much longer they are. And again, I think I want mine to come closer to the end of the block, only because I want to see more of that star. Also, I found a little bit better picture, so you can see that here is the bottom of all the ribbons. Again, they're not even. I love that look, but you can see again right here would be straight across, and right here is where that section ends, and then it covers up almost half that star. I'm going to try to do this kind of the same look where they won't be exactly the same. However, the majority, for example, let's say all of these that are the longer ones, I'm going to try to have them end, you know, close to the bottom of that section. But again, that's obviously not what the directions say. So the first thing I'm going to do is flip this block over, and on the top, I'm going to just take, I like to use paper tape. I'm just going to take a length, and I am going to put that, they said 1/8 of an inch. I'm not going to measure. I'm just going to kind of eye. So that this tape is sticking up. I'm going to flip it over, and then I'm just going to tape these edges down. Again, this is just something that I made up. This is, you know, not what the directions tell you to do. So now I have that tape at the top, so when I come up here, one, I can get these all lined up. That is not critical because of course the excess will be you know, in the seam allowance and can be trimmed off, but I like that I can just kind of stick that wherever I want it. Some of these will overlap, and so, you know, it may not work perfect, but that's going to give me a guide. Now at the top, I have marked 1/4 of an inch in towards the center so that when I place my ribbon, it will not get caught in the seam allowance when this is sewn to the block beside it. So what I'm going to do first is just get my ribbon ready. This ribbon, I took off the 18 inches for another block, and so this is what I have left. So I am going to just cut these in half. Now the directions say to cut 12 inches. I'm not going to measure. Again, I think I'm going to go quite a bit shorter, but I'm not going to worry about that now. So I will just cut this ribbon in half, and I will wait until section 2 and 3 get sewn together before I finalize how long I want my ribbons and lace to be. So as long as they are past the end of this block, I'm good. And so for example, for this long piece of blue, I can just hold it up and, you know, just measure a little bit down and cut. And I will just do that with every piece. So let's get these put on. The first thing I'm going to do is take this blue ribbon, which is what they have listed. Again, you don't have to do exactly what they do. I'm going to. So it's 1/4 of an inch in from the edge, because that's where our seam will be, our seam allowance. And I've just put it to the tape, the top of the tape, and stuck it down. Now the next piece is this lace from the lace that we had on our other block. And this just goes right next to it. So I'll just stick that down and again let the excess hang off. Then the next one it's showing is this fabric. And if you look at the picture, let's see. If you look at this picture, you can see that this plaid fabric goes underneath this lacy part. And so what I think I'll do is fold back just the scalloped part, place this, and then this will fold back over. Actually, I think I'm going to do it this way. So that will lay, and you can see that lace behind the plaid. Now the next that they're showing is one of these ribbons that have the words on it. And looking at this right now, I'm going to switch up because the middle one has stars and stripes. The next one has Star-Spangled Banner, and then Oh Glory. I don't want the two stars together. Again, that's just nitpicky. So instead of putting the Old Glory, I think I'm going to do the stars and stripes. Stars and stripes, and then I'll put the Oh Glory in the middle. And so I will just put this, and I think this overlapped as well. You can see down here that it overlaps a little bit. And again, it's, you know, just whatever you want. So I will just continue lining them up and taping them, and we'll get this block filled. The last one again will be 1/4 of an inch, just like this side. All right, so let's get the rest of this placed. This is so cute. I love it. Now I did pull out and use my 505 temporary adhesive glue stick. And this, for example, this pink checked or plaid fabric that we ripped goes underneath of part of the red on the end, the blue, and the lace. And so because this fabric, you know, is 1.5 inches wide, I needed to stick those down. And so for now, I just put the little, you know, glue at the top. I'll probably, when I take this to my sewing machine, I will maybe add some clips because it's not, you know, I mean, I could just pull it right up. And so I use that in a few spots. But I love this. Again, this is a lot longer. The lace I left long. I'll cut that. In fact, you know what? I think I'll just cut it just off right now. I'll make it a little long since I'm not exactly sure, you know, how long this will be. But I love it. So now I just need to take this to the sewing machine and stitch 1/8 of an inch from the top of the fabric, which is about 1/4 of an inch from the top of the ribbon, since I put this little piece right here. So you just want to secure those down, and then this block is done, and we'll finish the trimming when the sections are put together. I'm using my zipper foot, and I move my needle a little bit to the left so that it lines up with about 1/8 of an inch below the fabric line, and I can ride the side of the foot right next to the fabric.